Life is so interesting, and I feel like one of the things with having a job in a place is that if it's not terrible, like if it's pretty good, it's decent, it's mediocre, it's okay, sometimes we don't have a motivation to leave and change and do something different, right? And especially in the case of my job, I was in the nonprofit advocacy space. And so I was actually doing positive work that was affecting positive change in the world. And I actually felt really fulfilled and good by what I was doing and how I was contributing. And so if I hadn't gotten fired from my job, I don't know if I would have taken the direction that I took. Right.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's like these types of things, while they can feel sort of, really emotionally, you know, traumatic or dramatic or like, I mean,
Like
scary
negative.
and negative and, all this kind of stuff in the moment, sometimes you have to take that feeling and be like, you know what, maybe this is a a transitionary moment that I should really think hard about in terms of what my next step options are. And so for me, I had changed jobs. It was in the similar space, similar sector, but I had changed jobs and I'd moved out to LA and I was working for this new organization. And within the first, 6 months or so, they just surprised me. I had no idea this was coming. They called me in to a meeting one day and they're just like, yeah, it's not working out. And you need to just, hand in your stuff and be out by 5. And that was, I had to give them like my only phone I had was like a company phone. So I had to like give them my phone and stuff. And
Oh,
I remember this because when I left that day at 5, I literally did not even have a phone
oh
to
my
call my
God.
mother to tell her I got fired. And so then I'm like, okay, again, step one, drive to cell phone store to buy a phone so that I can call my mother to tell her I just got fired. Right. Like, I mean, it was like that. So then I do that. I have my new phone, call my mom, right? And then I'm like, okay, step two. And again, this is that moment. Step two, plan rest of life, right? And so and so then I'm thinking, okay, I could either apply for another job, but you know what? Maybe this is a transitionary moment where I could really do something quite different. I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try to start my own business. And then I could never get fired again. I would run my own business. I would be in control of it. And I think I want to try to go that route. There was only one problem, Lucy. I had no idea how to start a business. And I was like, but you know what? I feel like I could learn, right? So I drive to the bookstore right after the phone store. I went to the bookstore and I went to the business section and I start reading books on how to start a business. And each day I would drive to the bookstore. If anybody knows Los Angeles, this was the Barnes and Noble at the Grove in LA. And I would go there each day and I would get an espresso and I would sit there and I would read books. I wasn't buying the books, Lucy. I didn't have a job. I would just sit in the bookstore reading them. And the first thing I would do each day when I went in is I would look at the new business books that just came out, and that would be the first thing I would do. So one day I go in and there's a brand new book on the new business bookshelf by some 29-year-old kid that no one had ever heard of by the name of Timothy Ferriss. And the book was called The 4 Hour Work Week.
Still haven't
And
read it, but keep meaning to.
I
I
picked
mean,
it
I'm
up.
dying to read it. I don't know why I've never read it, but it's one of those books that is on my list.
Yeah. And again, this is a thing where timing was fortunate, right? I mean, we're talking 2007 when this happened. And I read the book the day it came out, and that book set off a couple light bulbs for me, right? Because that was talking about how when you're building a business and you're thinking about building a business, don't just build it based on financial revenue models and how to make money, right?
Mm,
Money is one currency, but there's another currency, which is the freedom of mobility,
yeah,
which is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than
yeah,
money for designing your lifestyle, right?
yeah.
If you have location freedom, you have location independence, you're not geographically restricted, that is a remarkable currency that's at least as valuable as money. And I was like, wow, that is what I'm doing. I want to build a fully remote business.